What is the common factor that all of these ideas share? If you somehow guessed that they are all tied to traditional Chinese medicine, you would be right. But here comes my next question. How did things get like this? Traditional Chinese medicine, also known as TCM, has been around for a very long time. So long, in fact, that researchers have found evidence of it all the way back in the Shang Dynasty. That was around 3,600 years ago. However, the evidence in question was a few bone needles that were thought to be used for bloodletting. Now, the oldest written work of traditional Chinese medicine was found in the year 168. These texts included dialogues between the legendary Yellow Emperor and his ministers. What were the dialogues? Well, they offered explanations on the relations between humans, their environment, and the cosmos. They also touched on the contents of the body, on human vitality and pathology, on the symptoms of illness, and on top of that, therapeutic decisions. This is probably as good a time as any to say that traditional Chinese medicine dabbles slightly into the realm of pseudoscience. Okay, well, it dabbles a lot into the realm of pseudoscience. But don't let all this pseudoscience talk convince you that traditional Chinese medicine is all gobbledygook nonsense. In fact, TCM has brought a lot of good ideas into the medical field, such as furthering the understanding and research of herbal medicine, and activities such as Tai Chi, which improve balance, flexibility, and it also relaxes your mental. Traditional Chinese medicine really got off the ground when the book The Yellow Emperor's 81 dropped. This book was written with the question and answer format in mind. The Yellow Emperor book has a total of 81 questions, with the respective 81 answers. These sections varied in subject matter. A section goes into pulse study, while another one pertains to urgent illnesses. To give you an example of what you will encounter in this book, let me read some of the questions posed. Chapter 6 talks about the separation and combination of yin and yang, while Chapter 14 goes into the thin and thick medical wines. And Chapter 53, well, that's all about notes of needling. These sections sound like they have a good deal of information in them. I mean, they are still being called upon today, seeing as this book has become one of the 4 classics for Chinese medicine practitioners. If I had more time, I would most definitely start studying Chapter 44. God knows I need it. Later books talk about more recipes one can make using medical herbs, while also getting further into the more spiritual, such as concepts of yin and yang. Yin is associated with darkness, the cold, and passivity, while yang represents light, heat, and activity. And in order to achieve peak health, utilizing yin and yang, one must balance these forces within the body and the universe. All this talk of yin and yang reminds me of the importance of pain. You see, in order to feel true happiness, you would have had to experience true pain at one point in your life. You can't have one without the other. In other words, you can't have happiness without pain, just like you can't have light without dark. Yin and yang are just one of the spiritual teachings that TCM offers. You also have the 5-element theory, which believes that the 5 elements, those being wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, influence physical, mental, and spiritual health. And of course, TCM offers many other belief systems that are supposed to teach you how to live your life in a more sustainable and agreeable way. Now, I'm not here to say whether these outlooks on life are right or wrong. If they work for somebody and it helps them maneuver through this cold, dark, evil world, all the power to them. Even if the belief system is batshit insane to a normal person like myself. Such as the cosmology part of TCM, which talks about the effects the lunar phases has on a person. Honestly, you will never catch me mapping out the moon phases, like as if I was some sort of werewolf. But you know, if this dogma works for others, well, what I'm trying to say is that the placebo effect is also real. Around the year 1000 AD, the Chinese were on something massive, and most of it was thanks to TCM. They started to experiment with smallpox scab tissue. What they would do is crush up the dried up scab tissue into a small powder and snort it up.
Stay with me now.
Believe it or not, this was widely seen as one of the first forms of vaccination. The Chinese physicians would notice that people who underwent this interesting type of exposure would actually build up way more of an immunity than the average person who did not snort dry smallpox scab. And just like that, 800 or so years later, the smallpox vaccine was realized, which made me realize that the COVID-19 vaccine was quite the unbelievable feat, since it was created in less than a year. Totally nothing shady going on with that point of interest, right? Absolutely nothing at all. Well, after that, TCM kept on growing, and was eventually endorsed by the God Emperor Chairman Mao Zedong himself. But reports detail that he personally did not believe in the teachings of traditional Chinese medicine, and on top of that, he didn't use any of the medicine. Now that we are all caught up with this history lesson, I believe it's time that we get into the meat of this episode. The teachings of traditional Chinese medicine falls into one of two categories. You have one portion of the TCM teachings that fall into the first category. That category being the half-baked ideas, the placebo effect abusers, and the ideas that, well, fully work. I would put ideas like the smallpox scab snorting, yin and yang, and bloodletting in this category. Each one of these ideas goes into its own respective column. If you couldn't already tell, I am a staunch supporter of bloodletting. I could go deep into this topic, but I think I'll save it for another video. Of course, only if you guys are down for it. Who am I kidding? Nobody's gonna watch a video about bloodletting. Now the second category. Well, this is where things get dicey. In this category, we will see scams, lies, and extinction levels of misinformation. Note to self, if someone or something promises to be able to cure your cancer with the use of herbal medicines, just give them all of your money and treat their word as if it was the gospel. Okay, obviously not. This is a clear example of a lie. There is no scientific proof of herbs or anything that isn't as extreme as chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery that can cure anybody of cancer. And if there was something like a herb or tea that could cure cancer, we will never know about it because Big Pharma, the government, and demons like Dr. Fauci would do everything in their power to erase that information from the face of the earth. Having said all of that, I just can't see a world where traditional Chinese medicine had the secret formula to cure cancer all along by taking some simple herbs. And with that, it pains me to deliver this message, but I sadly have to put medicinal herbs that cure cancer as a flat-out lie. Another theory that comes from TCM that has to be put as an example for a scam is the massage technique known as cupping. Not only is cupping not supported by science, but it has amassed quite the reputation for being a curse in the UFC. Legend has it that if you come out to the octagon with these grotesque hickeys, you will lose your fight. Allegedly, cupping is supposed to help with blood circulation, and it could also alleviate muscle tension and pain. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that the only thing cupping helps with is giving your brain a placebo boost. Just because you normally pay for this treatment, I'm gonna have to label it as a scam. But either way, I might have to try getting cupped. You know what they say, don't knock it until you try it. It's time for most definitely the craziest and probably the most well-known part of this video. The absolutely bonkers ingredients to some of these medicines. Think about it this way. When your homemade remedy for fever reduction calls for bear bile, or when your pain relief concoction needs the gallbladder of the Chinese giant salamander, you know you screwed up. The thing is, we don't live in some sort of MMORPG. Hell, maybe we do, but for my sanity, let's stick to what we know. The point is, rare items in this world don't always mean good. In other words, if you're trying to relieve some inflammation, you're not gonna make a trek to Africa to slay a rhinoceros in order to get his horn. Just take ibuprofen instead, you absolute But wait, hold on. A rhinoceros horn was never gonna help you with your inflammation anyway. In other words, this section has just been backwards from start to finish. That is unless Big Pharma paid off the media to spread a false narrative explicitly detailing that we should conserve these endangered animal species, because they want us to keep buying up their insanely overpriced products. Or better yet, maybe Big Pharma are the culprits behind all these cool animals almost being extinct, because they want full monopoly. Let's get back on track here. The bottom line is that TCM spreads falsehoods dictating that rare and endangered animals contain secret healing ingredients that we should consume. I really don't have to explain why this is harmful, especially because most of these items have been proven to not heal you in any way. You are not going to eat ground up tiger bones in order to strengthen your own bones. That is stupid. Just to drive the final nail into this depressing coffin, some texts of traditional Chinese medicine claim that you should consume mercury as a laxative. Hey man, it's your life. If you think this is a good idea, well, let's just let natural selection take its course. As we have seen, traditional Chinese medicine has made one of the impacts of old time on this world. Now, I could not tell you if TCM has had a net positive or net negative influence on the globe. That's up to you to figure out. But next time you're having breathing problems, don't go out looking for a tokay gecko to skin, dry up, and feast on as a remedy. Now, I know I've said a lot of jokes in this video, and that's exactly what they should be seen as. They should be seen as jokes. No need for an investigation here. In fact, I'm a staunch supporter of the government and Big Pharma, especially big pharmaceuticals. Matter of fact, Dr. Fauci was a childhood hero of mine. For proof, here's a picture of us together. I hope my message is received well. Now, instead of using these odd, yucky remedies for flu-like symptoms, please get the vaccine. For your sake, and for the sake of others.